Today we've got Nick Casey, principal extraordinaire. Hi, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing good.
Good.
Let's start it off. Tell us where you are, who's in your family, and what your role as an educator is.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. So I'm Nick. I'm from Northern California. We're outside of San Francisco. I have two little girls, Poppy and Ruby. They are 5 and 3. And I'm an elementary school principal. And so this is
Oh,
my tenth year as a principal.
wow.
Prior to that, I was a teacher.
What ages did you teach?
Mostly kindergarten. Yeah,
Okay.
the younger ones.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Okay, so you're a principal.
Yeah.
The new year is starting. Let's start with the basics, right? Like, what are you thinking about in terms of setting up for your school around inclusion and welcoming families, or what do you want to hear from families when the year starts?
Yeah, so the beginning of the year is always super exciting, right? It's new families. Everybody seems to have like positive vibes, and it's a great chance for us to kind of dive in with what we want to do each year. And I'm super fortunate we're in a district that, belonging is our number one focus. And so our biggest thing is we want to make sure that every student, every family, anyone who comes on our campuses feels like they belong. So our teachers do things to promote that. We do things as administration to promote that. And when it's a, overarching district goal, I think that's really helpful too, because, a kid from my school can transfer to the next school over and still know that they're going to belong there.
Mm. So I think we talk a lot about sort of connection with teachers. I'm curious
Hmm.
to hear from the principal perspective. What do you hear from the teachers that maybe they're receiving from families, or what's that perspective that might be helpful for parents to hear a little bit behind the scenes? Because we mostly interact with the teachers.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing that I really stress with my teachers is that if a student doesn't feel like they belong, they're not going to learn, right? So the first thing that you have to do is create that belonging. And teachers have that unique opportunity every year to do that in their classrooms, right? They get 24 to 33, depending on grade level, new faces each year, and they kind of build that community in their classroom. And we often have those conversations if a student is struggling, there's something else going on, right? Behavior is communication. So if you get this kid that's blowing out the classroom, it's the teacher's job and also my job to figure out what's going on and provide those supports. I find that the more we focus on belonging and the more our classrooms and schools feel like that family unit,
Hmm.
our behaviors are decreasing, right? Because it's a safe place for kids and
Yeah.
they know that.
Yeah. So how have you seen families, like specifically gay dad families or queer parent families, engage with your teachers in ways that have worked out and set the kids up for success?
Yeah, so I think communication is key, right? I think that a good teacher, a good school always starts the year off trying to figure out about families and what makes your family special or unique. And that's not just gay families. We have students being raised by grandparents or aunts and uncles, or you see the whole gamut. And so I think that when teachers reach out and kind of figure out who's in their class and what that makeup is, it helps them be better informed. I think it helps them use inclusive language in the classroom, right? And school wide too, that's a reminder for me. Like when I'm doing an assembly or something, it's important that I use inclusive language. I'm guilty of it, right? We did a cookie dough fundraiser or something, and I'm like, oh, boys and girls, go show your moms and dads, and then, so it's just like things like that where you have to, and my daughter's in the front row. So it's like, you got to remember things like that. You know, Again, I think it's very different, obviously, being in California. Our forms and things like that no longer have mother's name, father's name,
Okay.
things like that. I know other parts of the country, right? They
Yeah.
probably are still crossing out mom and
Yeah.
writing dad
Yeah.
number two or something.
Yeah.
But um,
So actually, like if we stay there for a second,
yeah.
if you're in a school district where the forms do say mom and dad or some
Hmm.
structure that is not representing your family, do you have
Yeah.
thoughts on how parents can think about engaging the school around that to
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think for something like that, like forms or things like that, that would definitely be appropriate to contact the principal, right? Or the vice principal, because the teacher's not going to really have control over that.
okay.
Um, and I think you just need to kind of communicate the issue at hand and go from there. Now, changing forms might be something that the principal then has to escalate, right,
Yeah.
to the board, the school board, or the superintendent.
Yeah.
But there are things, forms that go home that are just school based, right? Parent volunteers, things like that can easily be changed to reflect that.
Yeah.
Um, I,
That's super
yeah.
helpful. So actually, to that point of when are there times that families should go directly to the principal versus going to the teacher, specifically around issues of sort of inclusion or your family and representation?
Yeah, that's a good question because I tend to find that people like to come directly to me. And the first
Oh, okay.
question, yeah, the first question I usually ask is, have you spoken to the teacher about this, right? So I think you need to determine, is it a classroom issue or is it a school-wide issue? Because I
Okay.
think we owe it to the teacher in the classroom to give them a chance to respond to what you're saying or remedy it or and assume positive intentions, right? Like I don't think that the teachers are necessarily trying to make a child feel uncomfortable. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. But they just might not know or be aware of it.
Hmm.
We've gone through that with Mother's Day projects, right? Like it's something I try and get away from. But like our daughter was in preschool and the teacher approached us about it. Like, what do you want
Hmm.
to do? And I'm like, she can do something for her grandma or whoever she wants.
Hmm.
But, and I guess, and then my husband and I had that thought of like, should we have been the one to approach the teacher? Like we waited till she approached. It just wasn't on our radar, I guess. But
Yeah.
and I appreciated her coming to us about it, but I think that that's another thing to remember, like in the elementary school setting that I'm in, that the teachers might just not be thinking about it, right? They've done the same
Yeah.
Mother's Day project or Father's Day project for 20 years, and you
Yeah.
know,
And I think like especially as we think about to your point earlier, we've got some families that are going to be listening to this from communities where they have other two dad families or two mom families or single dad or single mom and folks who are the only, the only family or the only queer family in their district. And I think all of us feel the spotlight no matter where we are.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like as you think about if there are instances where either there's a family is feeling exclusion or sense of bias, how can then, and that first step is to talk to the teacher. How would you recommend framing that conversation or engaging the teacher as the first step?
Yeah, I think the first step is you got to start with clarity. Like, what is the real issue here? It's like, don't beat around the bush. Don't, accuse them of things or put, just like let's stick to the facts. What's the real issue?
Hmm.
And then we talked about choose that right entry point. So it's usually teacher first, maybe a counselor at the school if you need that. So I would reach out to them. I always say face-to-face meetings are better. Don't be, we call them keyboard warriors when we'll get blasted by an email,
Hmm.
So set up a face-to-face. If that's unresolved, that's kind of when you want to escalate it to the principal or the assistant principal. But like I said, the first question I always ask is, have you talked to the teacher? And
Hmm.
generally, if it's a classroom concern, I will invite the teacher to the meeting as well. I'm not going to
Hmm.
just, not give them a chance to speak out or talk about their position on
Sure.
it.
Sure.
Um, and then I always just say engage with like a partnership mindset, right? Like we're in this together. I don't know anyone in education that wants a student or a family to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be in that role, right? So it's like, let's come together. Let's acknowledge the positives that the school has done or the classroom teacher has done, and then come up with a plan from there.
I think that's a theme we've heard in sort of all these conversations of even if people are working in districts or states that are not supportive of our families, there are people doing great things hiding in plain sight, and that's sort of assuming best intent and also acknowledging that can be hard if you are feeling the tension or you've had bad experiences before to not go in on the offensive at the very beginning.
Yes. Yeah, no, I get it. It's definitely hard.
Yeah.
But I think that, like I said, I don't know. I just think that people in education, I know this is a sweeping generalization, but
Yeah.
they're good people. They want to make a difference, right? They
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing this job.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for the pay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess
yeah.
to that point, like, what do you see, whether it's teachers or schools, doing well when it comes to trying to be inclusive with queer families?
hmm I think it's like we talked about a little earlier, like the inclusive language, right? That's everywhere. So it's in the classrooms, it's on the forums, it's
Hmm.
in assemblies. I also think there has to be some representation in the curriculum, which I know is, again, across the country, not always the case, but,
Yeah,
showing stories with diverse families in them that aren't necessarily the story, like it's not the point of the story, right? Does that make sense? Like in the
yeah.
picture, there's just the two dads and the
We're just
kids,
existing.
but yes.
Yes.
So I think I know in August we do a whole unit on families, and there's a lot of books out there that aren't necessarily like these are the different types of families, but it's like
Yeah.
they're just represented throughout the curriculum.
Yeah. And
And
I think
then go ahead.
that word is certainly a hot button, and like we're gonna have folks listening to this conversation who are gonna be in maybe states or places where explicitly now there are rules and laws that, say families can't be represented, and sort of pain and the hurt, and acknowledging that a lot of the things that we're talking about today are gonna show up differently.
Sure. Yeah. And to that, I would say then, you get those books in your house, right? You read them for homework. The other thing I wanted to say too, when approaching administration or teachers, like it's okay to offer resources, right? It's okay to
Mm,
buy them a copy of that book,
okay.
for their classroom library or, volunteer to come in and read a book. I think that's okay. Sometimes, again, the schools don't know what they don't know.
Mm,
So they can learn from the parents too.
I like that. Um, okay, a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
As a principal, as a gay dad, today I've learned that your kid goes to your school. Like, how do
Yeah.
you think about visibility and managing all of you in that role?
Sure. Yeah. It's I have to navigate it, right? I think that over the course of my career, it's changed a little bit, but I set my boundaries, right? Being out doesn't mean that I'm sharing every personal detail of my life, like but this is our family, and so you see me with my daughter at school. My little one comes, stops by, you see our family at events. So I think it's just about being authentic. And I think when you're authentic, I think you're showing your students that they can be authentic too, right? Own
Yeah.
your story. Don't let other people own your story.
Yeah.
I think in a leadership role, I try and, model that for everybody on campus, that we all belong here. We
Yeah.
all are have the right to be here,
Yeah.
right? And we all need to feel like we belong and we're safe.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of these conversations are focused on. We have millions of kids with queer parents in school, and all those kids deserve the right to learn and feel safe and show up and have the same experience.
Yes. And I will say, like, I feel very hopeful for like the generation of young kids out there, like at our, like I see it daily and it's like no big deal to them. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
she has two moms, he has two dads, she
yeah,
lives with grandma. Like,
yeah,
it's just kind of the reality of it. And I want, our school values every type of family. Every school should value every type of family.
yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
All right, a few quick hitters, and then we'll get done. Number one, what is something that you think parents can do at the beginning of the school year to build a strong partnership with their child's school administration?
Show up. I think show up not just when things are going bad, show up when things are
Mm,
going great, right?
mm,
Attend a parents club meeting, offer to volunteer in the classroom, introduce yourself to the principal, the vice principal, the front office staff. I think that's important. I think, building that relationship in a positive way first helps if things maybe go off the rails a little bit. It's kind
mhm,
of like I tell my teachers, right? Make a positive phone call home before you're going to call home
mm,
about something negative that happens. You
mm.
build that relationship and it shows you cares. I think that works both ways, right? So parents coming into a school can also build that relationship with the school staff.
I love that.
Yeah. And I
And
think,
I'm sorry, go.
oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what maybe to end up like, what do you wish parents knew about being a principal that they don't?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I just wish, I guess I wish they remember like we're human. We make mistakes. I probably make mistakes every single day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're here for the kids. We're here to make sure everyone belongs. And it's yeah, we're human. Talk to us like a human.
Yeah.
And I often find that like if I like I talked about earlier, I'll get a scathing email or something. And it's better to just be like, come in and let's chat about this, like human to human, so people can kind of understand that. It's a tough job, man. And like gets tougher and tougher each year.
Yeah. Well, 10 years in and excited to have this chat again at year 15 and 20. See where it's
Yeah,
going.
yeah. Well, that'll be near retirement.
Yeah. Real. All right, Nick, thank you so much and good luck
Yeah,
with this
thank
week.
you.
All right, see ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.